Here is every way on how to get a small business grant. Listen, I think we're going to enter a period of time where a lot of free money is being handed out to new startups and small businesses because, as the economy turns south and companies start to fail, well then new and stronger companies will need to come in and help the economy grow once again. And so the US government is always looking for ways to stimulate the economy by supporting new and strong companies and giving them small business grants. But exactly what are small business grants and where can you find them and how much money can you get? Well, listen, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about grants, but if you watch this video until the end, then I am confident you will know exactly how to get a small business grant, because in this video, I will cover the types of small business grants, where to find small business grants like some that are available right now, and strategies to actually get approved for one. Now, really quick, before I dive in, let me briefly introduce myself. Hey there, I'm Sean, self-made millionaire and entrepreneur, and I'm on a mission to help people start, fund, and grow their business. Hey, this is a new YouTube channel, so if you get any value from today, do me a favor and like and subscribe to my channel. And if you do, tell me in the comment section below so that I can personally reply to thank you. All right, let's get this party started with number one. What is a small business grant? It's simple. It is money given to a business like an LLC or a corporation for specific business purposes. And unlike a business loan, you don't need to repay business grants at all, which basically means it's like free money for your startup or existing business. So you don't always have to get an investor or refinance your home or take out a small business loan in order to get the capital you need for your business, although sometimes these methods are preferred, and we'll talk about why a little bit later. Now, in most cases, the grant money can be used toward business startup costs, business expansion and growth, or even business survival. Hey Sean, look, I'm using my business grant to survive. But ultimately, what you can use the money for comes down to the type of small business grant you receive and their specific requirements. Also, you should know, grants are not guaranteed. So entrepreneurs must apply fast and make a convincing argument as to why they deserve the grant. Typically that involves emphasizing the type of business you have and what you need the money for. Lastly, you should know that small business grant funding is usually capped, meaning that there is a limited amount of money available before the grant completely disappears. Now that you know what small business grants are, let's talk about number two, where do grants come from? So typically grants come from two types of organizations. Number one, governments, that is federal and state governments, and even county and local governments. For example, one of my businesses received a federal government grant administered by the SBA. The second place grants come from is number two, private businesses and public corporations. An example of this will be the FedEx Small Business Grant, where every year since 2013, FedEx offers $25,000 in grants to small businesses. Now, here's the deal. Typically, when a government offers a business grant, there's going to be a lot of digging into your business and even personal affairs. On the other hand, when corporations are the ones handing out the money, then there's usually some type of competition aspect to getting or winning the small business grant. Now, at the end of the day, free money is free money, right? So it doesn't really matter if you go for government grants or private grants. What matters is you actually get one. But you may be wondering, why in the world would all these governments and corporations be giving out all this free money? Well, this is actually important to know, because if you understand the why, then you can better position yourself to get approved for a grant. So typically, grants become available because a government agency or a nonprofit organization or a corporation wants to address an area of concern, which could be either A, beneficial for them, or B, come back to haunt them in the long term. So for example, you'll see corporations set aside grant money for research and development and technology within their specific industry. Like hypothetically, a big hospitality company may give grants to new restaurantpreneurs who want to use AI or robots to serve guests instead of human servers. And if that turns out to be successful, then they could use that business model for the future as well. Plus, as another business, these grants are also qualified tax deductions for the grantor. And so corporations are happy to foster this type of innovation by giving out free money to smart and hungry entrepreneurs, because ultimately it can help their business models in the long term. Okay, now that you understand all that, let's get into the meat of this video and start talking about where to find small business grants with number 3, where to find local, city, and state government grants. Now remember, small business grants are not guaranteed simply because, there's usually a limited amount of funding available combined with a lot of competition. That's why I like to suggest starting with local and state government grants, because the competition is much lower since you're only competing with those in your local area, and the grants are advertised a lot less. So where can you find state and local grants? I have 3 places for you. Number 1, check with your local small business development center, also known as SBDCs. SBDCs are organizations that are funded directly by the government to support local small businesses in many ways, including issuing small business grants. Also, I like SBDCs because you can actually visit them and chat with a representative about stuff like, what small business grants are currently available, what grants are coming soon and how you can get access to them early, and how to apply correctly so you give yourself and your business the best chance of getting it. To start, just search for local SBDCs in your area and browse their website. In most cases, they will have financial programs and assistance right on their website. For example, I live in Atlanta and I found a place where I can directly call the center to see what is available. Another way to find state and local grants is with number 2, local economic development centers or authorities. These organizations are also funded by the government, and they bend over backwards to provide better opportunities for their communities. For example, Amazon receives millions of dollars in grants and tax credits to bring their business operations to specific areas. And you probably heard about that. But why? Because Amazon creates jobs, and those jobs provide more opportunities for the residents in that community, who then have more spending power to stimulate their local economy. But these grants aren't just reserved for big companies like Amazon. Startups and small businesses can also benefit from these local economic development centers as well. For example, when I searched for Atlanta Economic Authority, I found Invest Atlanta, and one of my businesses was able to receive something called an Opportunity Zone Tax Credit, which gave us a $3,500 tax credit for every new job we created, which incentivized us to move to that specific opportunity zone because it gave us additional funding to offset some of our business expenses. And look, tax credits offset tax liabilities dollar for dollar. And in some cases, they can be refundable as well. And so tax credits are almost as good as business grants, except for the fact that you have to wait until tax time to actually receive them. So don't hesitate to look at all the grant opportunities provided directly from your city. You could use some Google search formulas like your city or your county plus business grants or tax credits. An example search for me is Atlanta Small Business Grants or Fulton County Tax Credits, and a combination of all of them. Now, a third way to get local, city, or state grants is number 3, call your elected officials directly. This can be a major hack that can help you find small business grants that no one else knows about because, the truth is small business grants are everywhere. You just need to know where they are. And you might be surprised that you can easily call your elected official office and get pointed in the right direction. So when a representative answers your phone call, you could say something like, hey, I'm a small business owner in the community and I need some assistance with small business grants. Can you help point me in the right direction? And look, don't be shy about this because, okay, your community elects the politicians and so they work for you. Plus, it is your tax dollars that fund these types of grants and programs. And so as an entrepreneur, a part of that community, you have every right to inquire about the business grants available in your area. You can even ask for a letter of recommendation from your local congressman to help you in your application for specific grants. All right, now let's take this up a level and talk about chapter number 4, where to find federal small business grants. So even though federal grants are more competitive, guess what? The US government still spends billions of dollars every year to support small businesses. In fact, recently a $10 billion stimulus package is being made available as a part of the State Small Business Credit Initiative, or SSBCI. And as I mentioned earlier, my first business grant was a federal one. And so don't let this increase in competition discourage you. Okay, so where can you find federal grants? I have 3 resources for you. The first one is number 1, grants.gov. I'm pretty sure this website is the biggest database to learn, find, and apply for federal small business grants. They even have a new app that you can install right on your phone and receive custom notifications. So their database is massive, which can actually be a little bit overwhelming. But thankfully, they give you the ability to narrow down your search by funding type, which in this case will be grants, eligibility requirements, business categories or specific industries, and even down to the government agencies who are issuing the monies. So with such a large database, if you spend enough time on this website learning and applying, then I am confident you will eventually find a grant that is right for you. Okay, another resource to find federal business grants is number 2, the SBA, or Small Business Administration. During the pandemic, the SBA was giving out small business grants left and right. And even though they started to run out of funding, they still have many grants available today. You can find them right on their official website by going to sba.gov and hovering over funding programs. From there, you will see grants that are currently available. Now, in addition to the grants that are funded directly from the SBA also partners with other organizations because they are limited on how many different grants they can oversee and applications they can process. So what we want to do is find out who the SBA is actually partnering with. And fortunately, the SBA has an entire web page where they list out who they partner with, which includes the SBDCs that we talked about, veteran business centers, women business centers, and a lot more. And those are just resource partners. Another popular way to find federal business grants is number 3, grantwatch.com. This site also has a large database of thousands of grants that you can apply for. They also have some premium services you can pay for to help you quickly apply and get notified about new grants. Now, this website is heavily monetized with different ads and different services, so just be careful not to click on something that sounds a little bit too good to be true. Next, let's move on to chapter number 6 and talk about where to find corporate grants. Now, the good news is that many private and public corporations offer grants to small businesses. For example, MasterCard has the Small Business Grant Fund. Amazon has the AWS Imagine Grant, and Google and Facebook also have ad grant programs as well. So they're definitely out there. But unfortunately, to find these grants, you have to manually search for them. And I haven't found one website that lists out all the corporate grants that are available. And that actually makes sense because these corporate grants don't last very long. So if you see one, you have to jump on it quick because generally they don't have as much funding that government grants can offer. Now, if you're really dedicated to finding a corporate grant, then the one thing you could do is search on Google News every week about what corporate grants have just become available. All right, let's move on to chapter number 7 and look at a list of annual and year-round grants available. So I'm going to give you some small business grants that you can apply for today and going forward at any point that you see this video. This is my attempt at an evergreen list or a list that can stand the test of time. Let's get into it with number 1. Since I already mentioned it, let me quickly cover the FedEx Small Business Grant. So every year, FedEx gives out free money to small businesses, and so far they have awarded more than $1.5 million in cash to over 100 companies. The best part is the application process is super easy, and to be eligible, you simply need to have a FedEx account, have been selling a product that must be shipped, and have fewer than 99 employees. Other than that, the only companies that aren't eligible are nonprofits and franchises, which, by the way, most franchises aren't available to qualify for a lot of small business grants. Okay, grant number 2 is a federal grant called Small Business Innovation Research and Technology Grants, also known as SBIR and STTR grants. Okay, these grants are offered year-round and they're almost always available for startups, specifically startups who are focused on scientific research and technology innovation. So if you want to develop some type of new app or software or smart hardware, then this is something that you might want to look into, especially if you are in the healthcare space. And these grants are huge. Okay, companies that get approved can get up to $250,000 in grant funding in government contracts. Moving on to another federal grant, I have number 3, USDA Rural Business Development Grants. This grant is perfect for someone who is trying to develop a business in a rural area. And if you've been watching my videos, then you know I'm a big fan of farming and agricultural companies because they have a very high success rate. And so you can use this grant to acquire or develop land, purchase equipment and machinery, amongst many other things. And to qualify, you must be in a rural area, which is defined as a city or a town with a population of 50,000 people or less, and must not be near any other major cities. Hey Sean, look, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Okay, let's move on to grant number 4, which is from the SBA called Prime Grants, or Program for Investors and Micro Entrepreneurs. Now, this grant isn't awarded directly to small businesses, but rather to organizations who then support small businesses. For example, Nebraska's Enterprise Fund was awarded a Prime Grant, and they used the funds to support the small businesses in that area. So the trick with this is to find out what organizations in your area may have been awarded a Prime Grant and then call them to see what's up. And again, this will require you to be super dedicated to finding grants by running Google searches every week or maybe even every month. Grant number 5 is an annual grant from the National Association for the Self-Employed. They give up to $4,000 in grants to entrepreneurs who are looking to grow their business. And since 2006, they've awarded more than $1 million to their members. The great thing about this grant is that you can use the money for almost anything, like marketing, advertising, hiring employees, expanding facilities, and anything else that is required for more business grant. Now, the main requirement is that you must be a member of their organization in order to qualify, which costs about $12 per month. But that comes with a lot of other benefits as well. Moving on to another popular grant, I have number 6, the Fast Break for Small Business Grant. This fund offers $10,000 in startup funding to small businesses who are in underserved and underrepresented communities. Applications for this are usually open twice per year, so funding is usually always available. Another big time grant is number 7, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Dream Big Awards. Now this is a competition with many categories, and so businesses who apply will need to make a strong case for how they're contributing to their specific industries. And then winners will receive up to $25,000 in free grant money. All right, so there's a quick list on grants that should be available right now or at any point that you find this video. However, if you'd like to see me make more videos on business grants that are available, just tell me down in the comment section below and I'll consider making one. Now, since you made it this far in the video, I have one bonus tip, which is government contracts. Because government contracts are almost like small business grants in the sense that it's like guaranteed money. And some government contracts are huge, they can last for multiple years, and pay very, very well. And so after you fulfill the contract obligations, you're allowed to keep the rest of the profits. And I've heard stories about people who've built million-dollar businesses and their only source of revenue is from government contracts. And in some cases, the government agency must give the contract to minority-owned or woman-owned companies, which significantly decreases competition. I can make an entire video on government contracts, so if you'd like to see me make one, again, just comment down below. Now, before I wrap up, here's a very important note, okay? I've mentioned it multiple times, but small business grants are not guaranteed. So please, 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 if you're looking to start a business, don't let getting a small business grant stop you. Okay, yes, it's free money, but it can take a lot of time and commitment to actually get a small business grant. And the ultimate goal is to build a successful business, and that should always remain the primary focus. So a free $25,000 should not stop that from happening. Now, if you absolutely need capital for your business, then consider other funding options. For example, you could turn to traditional lending options like going to a bank and getting a small business loan, or using business credit cards, or my preference, strategically bootstrap your new business idea. And I have an entire video where I break down how to get startup funding without a bank or investor, and another video where I break down small business loans. So if you haven't checked that out already, check it out, and I'll see you over there.